Well, we are here at the ISFL conference in Washington, D.C. and now I speak with Shahaed Hasan from the Students of Liberty chapter in Iowa. Hi.
Hello, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm well. You too?
Yes.
What is the central political issue that makes you a libertarian? What has convinced you about libertarianism, and what are you doing in the libertarian movement at now?
Right now, the libertarian movement, especially in Iowa and most of America, is starting as a seed. We're spreading an idea more than we're spreading policy, because we want people and the public to be informed that the idea of freedom exists. The idea that we shouldn't have a large government telling us what to do. We require limited government, and limited government can help us in multiple ways, such as in gun control, and helping our economy flourish, and helping our foreign policy, and actually even protecting us from terrorist attacks and making us a better center. Because right now America is acting as a leader in world politics and acts as a police officer, and not a lot of Americans like that, and how much money we're spending towards that. We want to focus on more issues at home, and we're spreading that idea around. And that's the idea of the libertarian, just the seed of an idea that's going to grow and hopefully make changes later on.
Oh, that's great to hear, because foreign policy is an important issue, of course, in Germany also. I am the chairman of the German Libertarian Party. It's called the Freedoms Party, the Libertarians. Okay. And of course, this is also a very important topic, because I think the libertarian movement is deeply divided. In Germany, as in the USA, I think also deeply divided into two camps. The one camp, like Ron Paul says it, and it's also the position of our party, is that one should stay out of other countries and should have a neutral position. So, for example, if someday I am elected to councillor, of course now that's an utopia, yes, but maybe one day is the case, the first thing I would do is that Germany leaves the NATO and the European Union to stay as a free and independent country. So, and I think Ron Paul would completely agree with this, whereas other libertarians, for example Tom Palmer, have another position and say, no, we have to fight for freedom in the whole world. Some libertarians also defend the Iraq war, for example. Of course. And I think the movement is deeply divided upon this issue. What is your opinion about this?
Reading into more libertarian literature and talking to many people around this conference that were here about their philosophies around here, I've come to a consensus that the fact that we fight for other people's liberty isn't actually in the libertarian ideal. That isn't in our best interest, because as libertarians, our job is to limit our government, limit ourselves, and make sure we have personal freedom. When we give away personal freedom, and we give away some of our freedom so somebody else can have freedom across the world, that's fantastic and that's great and ideal, but that's not the libertarian way. I believe the libertarian way is, of course, coveting out of these alliances, more in the political sense, isolating yourself. We call this in America geopolitical isolationism. We tried practicing this around the early 1900s before World War I forced us into the more global theater. And it worked for us. Our economy was flourishing. We had many natural resources so we can survive on our own. Nowadays, with the world economy, I think it can even be even better if we let the world economy actually supply us with resources we don't have, and then we give services in exchange. And if we have if capitalism succeeds around the world, which it has for a good century now, we should be able to geopolitically isolate ourselves and not push our interests onto other countries for oil rights or pipeline rights, such in Africa or in the Middle East. And that's why I believe the Ron Paul view on libertarianism is the actual libertarianism view, where while we wish the best on the others that fight for liberty, and while we can help them any way we want, if one of us, say, wants to fight for liberty in some other country, we should be allowed to leave our country and go fight for them, fight for liberty, but we shouldn't be forced to pay money so the other countries can get liberty, because then we are taking our own personal liberties.
I completely agree with this. So imagine the case, Rand Paul is elected to President of the United States.
Ron or Rand?
Rand, I think Ron isn't isn't running.
Yeah, Rand.
Whereas 2016 maybe Rand Paul is running for office. Maybe he is elected.
Okay.
Imagine this case. Do you think he would really make such a foreign policy, or do you think he would be forced to compromise the libertarian ideal?
I do not believe he'll make this choice because it's a very radical step. Now, Germany is a member of NATO and member of the EU and member of the UN. However, in America, we're a founding member of NATO. We're a founding member of the UN. And pulling out when we put so much money into NATO and the UN, it would be disastrous for those groups. And international pressure there would be enough international pressure where the other countries, England, Germany, France, they wouldn't allow us to pull out, or they would pressure us into not. And I don't think that's Rand Paul's policy either way. He runs as more of a moderate compared to the liberal, compared to how libertarian his father was. He runs more moderate. He runs more with the Republican Party, and I think that the Republican Party will, if he wins, the Republican Party will also take control of the House and Senate, and they will be able to force our government right now to maybe even more involvement in global policies, more involvement in foreign policies, so we can protect our special interests abroad, which is what they really want to do.
Okay, but in this case, I would have the critical question: what sense would it make if he is elected? Maybe the taxes are cut a little bit, but America, the USA would still have troops in the half of the world. So I wouldn't think this would be a great advantage, wouldn't it?
No, but in America, the president does not have as much power as people think. Electing a president is just one step. You would need to give him a House and a Senate that are both bodies of legislation that are both behind him and both support him 100%. That has happened very little in recent history. You usually have the House divided, the Senate divided, and then you need to have the people behind them. What voting a president really means in America, the way I see it now, is it sets a mandate across the whole nation. And we discuss this a lot here. It's a big topic that when Barack Obama got voted again in 2012, the people set a mandate, and they wanted what he wanted. And it was just a small cultural shift towards what he's getting at, because all his policies are never going to be fulfilled. Our government is they aren't as fluid, they are more locked down, and it is hard to get stuff done, which with the multiple checks and balances, which can be a good and bad thing. So I don't think Rand Paul being elected would do too much of a difference other than set a mandate that the people are wanting more of a libertarian ideal, and hopefully shift our country's view from the extremely progressive path we're traveling in down to the more libertarian path.
Okay, I see. So what is your opinion about the crisis in the Ukraine? Is Putin really that evil, or is this propaganda from powerful political groups that want only that the world stays still unipolar?
Of course, we as Americans have to condemn Putin's actions for invading a foreign country. That's against the UN mandate that they signed as a Security Council member, and that's against everything any of us believe in. However, if you want to look at it from the Russians' viewpoint, Putin's approval ratings are crazy high. Many people in the Crimean regions identify themselves as Russians, and they see Putin coming in as something that's a good thing, and maybe a return to the old times when they were part of the Soviet Union. I don't think Putin is evil. I think he is a Russian nationalist at heart, and he just wants his country to succeed. And I don't think it's the U.S.'s place to do anything about it, because it has not affected us. And even if it does, the libertarian viewpoint is to limit foreign interactions. If Putin wishes to take back a region that historically has been Russian, I believe it's his right. And if the people don't want it, then the people will fight. I don't think that's the U.S.'s position to get involved. It's a very gray area.
Oh, I think I can completely agree with this too. So in Germany, the situation is that we are very isolated. The libertarian movement is still young, it is still very small, and most Germans are very statist in mind. So what would you recommend us to break through this isolation? Is maybe provocation the right option?
That's a fine line you don't want to cross, because you don't want to be seen as outliers. You don't want to be seen as the ones that are crazy radicals. You want to be seen as a viable option for your country to eventually progress to. The way we're trying to do it over here in America is there's a lot of these movements called libertarian seeds, and we're more grassroots. We're trying to get the idea of libertarianism out, the idea of personal freedom with limited government, and show them how great these ideas can be and how well they can work, how well they've worked in some places. Our Constitution is very good at limiting government, and we are showing them how, if that is spread out throughout our whole mandate, our whole system, how well it can work and how fluid and efficient the system can be. So we're more of a small idea, and we're recruiting a lot of young kids. This is the Students for Liberty Conference, so we're trying to get the young kids, the students, anybody who's on social media. That's especially huge. It was able to start riots in the Middle East, and overthrow regimes. You want to get on social media. You want to get the young people involved, and you want to explain to them how this, honestly, is a very viable regime and a very viable political stance, because limiting government and increasing personal freedoms is what almost every young person I've met really wants. And personal freedoms are something you can really advocate to the people.
Okay, thank you very much for taking the time for this interview. It was very nice to talk to you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
You have much experience in speaking.